This is one of the biggest ways we grow social anxiety. Stay tuned. That's what's up next. Hi, my name is Natasha Daniels. I'm a therapist. I make videos for people with anxiety or OCD. And today I want to talk about social anxiety's number one biggest way to grow it. And I know this because I have struggled with social anxiety my entire life. And it's something that you continue to live with even when you've crushed it. Those thoughts will still pop up. And one of the biggest areas that we continue to grow our social anxiety is not always in our social interactions, but it's in what we do after those social interactions that really fester and grow our paranoia, skew our perceptions, and make us want to avoid more of those social interactions. So I wonder if you do this as well. So you have an interaction and then you analyze it over and over again after it is done. What you said, what they said, what you could have said, what they should have said, how they perceived you, how you perceived them, how you don't fit in, how you maybe don't belong, how you were judged, how you went over the top or you didn't say enough, or, right? Does this sound familiar? If you have social anxiety, this probably sounds really familiar because this is the number one behavior that happens with social anxiety. It's getting us to those social interactions, and then it's all the things that we tell ourselves after those interactions, and that's rough. One thing that I've noticed in my own journey with social anxiety is that overanalyzing and those misinterpreted perceptions don't shift and change just because you've crushed social anxiety. I've done a crazy amount of work on my social anxiety, and I feel like it's really tiny. However, that doesn't mean that those thoughts don't pop up still. It's what we do with those thoughts that really is the meat and potatoes of our progress. And so what I have learned to do, instead of beating myself up after a social interaction and having the whole, negative thought in my head, and then thinking, oh my gosh, Natasha, I thought you were done with this. I thought you crushed social anxiety. Like, you're a fraud. Why are you having these thoughts? Why are you having these insecurities? I thought you were fixed, right? A lot of us do that, right? We feel like defeated by the fact that we are even having a struggle. Instead, what I've learned recently to do with myself is to acknowledge, my little social anxiety buddy, I call him Pero, he's right there, it's okay. But I'm not going to give him screen time. He's not getting the full stage. And so I recognize that my little Pero is going to show up after I have a social interaction. Especially for me, at this point in my journey, normally he only shows up when it's a new interaction with people I don't know, something that's novel or different. I've come a long way, and so I'm not getting that daily, analysis. And hopefully you are there, or you're going to get there as well. But when I am in a situation that could be a lot of, perception shifts, I could talk about how I wasn't well received or whatever it is. That's when my Pero gets loud. And maybe your social anxiety gets loud all the time. But when you are done with a social interaction that is ripe for your social anxiety to feast on, it's like a huge buffet was just put in front of your social anxiety, and they're like, oh, where do we dig in? What should we talk about first? There's so much to talk about. There's nothing to talk about. And so what I have done is become very, very heightened and aware of those minutes, hours, sometimes day after a social interaction. And so I am having a security system in my brain, and it's scanning, and it will notice, oh, here's a little thought, right? It's popping down, and I can recognize, oh, that's a social anxiety thought. And normally my social anxiety, it might be different for yours, it starts off pretty subtle because it knows it wants to avoid, the security system in my head. So it might start off really oh, everybody had a really good time. That was fun. I'll be like, yeah, it was. Although that one girl, I don't think she really laughed at anything you said. No, she really didn't. I wonder if she was annoyed that you were there. And then it's like this tiny little snowball turns into an avalanche of overwhelming thoughts. And then before you know it, if I don't catch it, within 30 minutes, I could be like, that was a horrible experience. Even though objectively it went well. I can reframe, revise history, rewire my perceptions or hardwire them for social anxiety, where I was rejected, I was criticized, I wasn't included, I shouldn't have gone, I shouldn't go next time. And all of that is fictitious. It's based on nothing in reality. It's based on my subjective spin, my social anxiety spin on what could have been, what might have been. It's not helpful. It would make me want to avoid the next interaction. And so instead, watch those thoughts, in particular right after an interaction. So for that period of time, for me, it's especially the first 30 minutes. And then if it's really a new event or it's something kind of meaty for my social anxiety to like put their teeth into, I have to watch it for like about 24 hours. It might even be longer for you. But because I'm watching it, I'll notice it pop up and I'll be like, nope, that's paro. That's my paro, right? You can call it something else. Paro for paranoid. That's my paro. I'm going to go redirect my attention, not distract myself, because I'm recognizing paro's knocking on my door and I recognize it. You're my social anxiety. I know a huge buffet has been put in front of you and you're just waiting to dive in, but this meal is not for you. This meal was for me. The meal is over. We're not going to debrief. And so then I redirect my attention to something I care about. Let me go watch this great show on Netflix, or let me go sit outside, or let me go for a walk, or let me get into a discussion with someone. But I will actively engage in something that brings me joy because I don't want to sit there and talk to Pero. I actually have to do that kind of like a ping pong. I have to do that multiple times during that period of time, depending on how upsetting or how delicious the buffet might be for my Pero. And so pay attention after you have an interaction that you know is a huge buffet for your social anxiety. And don't allow your social anxiety to feast. It's gonna nibble, it's gonna get an appetizer, it's gonna sneak in there and eat a little bit, and you're gonna get hooked in for a minute because that's just human nature. But then recognize it right away and just know, this meal is not for you. We already ate this meal, we're not going to review it. And when you gatekeep like that, in a compassionate way, right? Not in a damaging way to yourself. Like, I can't believe I'm having these thoughts. No, it's an acceptance of, yep, I'm going to have these wave of thoughts. They're going to come in and they're going to go out, and they're going to try to come in again and they're going to go out. And eventually Pero, or your social anxiety, gives up because it's knocking, you're not answering. It's knocking, you're not answering, and it fizzles. If I can survive normally the first 24 hours, for me, and I've done a lot of work, so it might be longer for you, it eventually gives up. And so I have to be super careful in that first period of time. So try this. Pay attention to a social interaction and then be really aware of your thoughts for, a certain period of time afterwards. And whenever you're having those perception things or those little whispers of, I don't think she likes you, or whatever it may be for you, it might be different for you, redirect your attention to something you enjoy. Don't grow those snowballs. I call them growing snowballs. When you let it speed and get momentum down that hill, it will turn into an avalanche and it will bury you and grow your social anxiety. And none of us need that. Well, I hope that you're enjoying these videos. I do have a whole course on social anxiety if you want much more in-depth support, hear more about my journey, and I'll walk you through how to get to the other side and live in maintenance mode, which is what I'm doing at this point, where I am, I've crushed it, and now I just have to use those skills. It's a daily practice. You can check out that course at atparentingsurvivalschool.com. I will leave a link below, but you just scroll all the way down. And then there's OCD classes, there's anxiety classes. You'll find it in the anxiety classes category. And I hope that you find it helpful. I'll be back next week for another video. Take care.